Hi guys! In this video, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks so you can successfully complete a couple blogs. These blogs are Personaliza 1 and Personaliza 2, both part of Capítulo 3, Chapter 3, or the 4th unit on Blackboard. So the first one is Unit 4 Class Audio Blog Personaliza 1. I'm going to read the instructions here. Open a new project in Audacity. I know I don't have to use Audacity. Record 4 questions for your classmates using the AR verbs below. Okay, so can I use any verb I feel like? Well, the instructions tell me to use the ones below, so I guess I better do that. Also, am I going to write sentences on this one? No, you're right. You're not going to write sentences because I'm being graded on asking questions. So we want to make sure we always pay attention to those details in the instructions. If you export it as a WAV or whatever file format, by this point everyone should have the file format they know that works for them, all right? And then of course you'll upload it. Number 5, answer a classmate's question. That's optional. If you want to do it, go ahead. That would be great. I really think it would help reinforce. If you're like, you know what, I don't have time, I need to focus on just getting the blog recorded, perfect, that's okay too. So, we're going to look at what they've given us. Sacar buenas notas, estudiar, usar la computadora, llevar uniforme, hablar en la clase de. That ... indicates that something else needs to happen, right? To speak in the class of, well, tell me, is it the English class or Spanish class or whatever? Also remember, follow this word order. La clase de whatever the subject is. That is a very specific construct. There's no reason to change it. Doesn't matter that in English we might say, oh, well, that's math class. Well, that's super. But in Spanish, it's not matemáticas clase. It's la clase de matemáticas. End of story, okay? So we want to make sure we're getting used to those word orders. And the final thing they give us is navegar la red. So you're going to create questions with these. Now, we know we have 2 types of questions. We have yes or no questions, like, are you tall? Or we have open-ended questions, like, how tall are you? There's an infinite number of answers. What type of question should you do for this audio blog? I'm going to leave that up to you. I do think for this audio blog, it's a little bit simpler to do yes or no questions, just because it might be hard to compose open-ended questions with the prompts you've been given, okay? So it might be difficult to compose open-ended questions with what you've been given. I think yes or no is a little bit more straightforward, okay? So, for example, about studying, you could say, do you study? Or you could say, where do you study? Whatever you want to do is fine. So, I'm going to look at the modelo, which says, sacas buenas notas en tus clases, or tus clases, sorry. So, I know since it's sacas that the person verbing has to be tú. There's no doubt about it, right? The only person who can sacas is tú. So I know that makes it optional. So in the modelo, they've chosen not to include it, and that's fine. If you want to follow that format, that's totally perfect. If you do want to include the pronoun, there's a couple different options, and I want to take a look at those now. The way we've practiced the pronoun in our in class has been to plop it right after the verb. Sacas tú buenas notas? En tus clases would be the rest of the question. That is fine. You do want to be familiar with the fact that you might see it at the beginning. Tú sacas buenas notas, which really just looks like a statement with question marks on it. Sacas buenas notas tú, you might see it at the very end. Or like in the modelo, you might see sacas buenas notas, and that's it. All of these are correct. So as long as, I think if you're confused, just eliminate it, okay? But you do want to practice a little bit because sometimes you do have to include the pronoun. Okay, so if I say saca buenas notas, well, who are we talking about? Are we talking about él or ella or usted? Things like that. So there's a little bit of flexibility in there. So for that activity, you're going to, get back there, you're going to create questions for this. You are going to record 4 questions for your classmates, which means you're going to be using tú. Okay, you're talking to your friends, so tú. It's not really specified in the instructions, but the idea of this activity is to use the singular form of the verbs. Let's go down to Personaliza 2. This one's really similar, changes a little bit. Instructions say review the last blog. Well, we just talked about it, so we'll consider that a check. The blog is similar, but now we're dealing with plural verbs. Okay, so there's the difference, plural verbs. So I better not include singular verbs. Nosotros, ustedes, and ellos are the subjects. Those are the forms of the verbs we should use. So I can use the verbs below or other verbs. So in this case, I have a little bit of flexibility. I can use the 4 that they've given me, or I can bring in other ones. Whatever you want to do. Just remember, so far the only verbs we know how to use are AR verbs, ser, tener, and the verb ir. In this blog, do not use ser and tener because that's old news. I know you know how to use those verbs. I'm not interested in those. I'm interested in seeing your mastery of our new verbs. So it's got to be either an AR verb or the verb ir, to go, okay? You're going to ask 4 questions this time, but you're going to talk to a classmate and one of their friends. And that's what's going to make it plural, because I'm going to be talking to you guys, right? Or y'all. Again, your response to a classmate's question is optional. It's whatever you want to do. So here we have tomar muchas clases. In the example, they have tú y tu amigo toman muchas clases. Great. You and your friend take a lot of classes. Perfect. Remember that in Spanish, we never have the do. It doesn't exist as an auxiliary verb or as a helper verb. So we never have a do in a question. Don't need it. All right? Do the same for these 3, or you'll want to record that one and then compose questions for 3 more, whether you use these ones or other AR verbs from our list. And that's all you got to do. So good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.